Alright, let's go back to 2009, a time before TikTok, when YouTube was just starting to blow up, and your phone probably still had a physical keyboard. This was when Microsoft dropped Windows 7, and honestly, it was a game changer. If you know, you know. Windows 7 wasn't just an operating system, it was a whole vibe. It was the perfect balance of power, simplicity, and just the right amount of flash. For a lot of people, it wasn't just the best version of Windows, it was the best operating system ever. Let me explain why. First, let's rewind to what came before it, Windows Vista. Now, no disrespect to Vista, but let's be real, it was kind of a hot mess. Slow, clunky, and full of annoying pop-ups. You couldn't do anything without the system asking, "Are you sure?" Really sure, final answer? It was like that overly cautious friend who checks every detail before going out. People were over it. So when Windows 7 came along, it was like a breath of fresh air. Smooth, fast, and reliable. It was everything Vista wasn't. Let's talk about the look and feel. Windows 7 introduced the Aero Glass design, which was basically the tech version of a glow-up. The transparent windows, smooth animations, and snappy feel, it just looked good. The start menu. Absolute chef's kiss. It wasn't overwhelming, it wasn't confusing, it was just perfect. Programs were right there, the search bar worked like magic, and everything felt like it was in the right place. No gimmicks, no distractions, just clean and efficient. Now onto performance, Windows 7 was built different. Unlike Vista, which felt like it was dragging your computer down, Windows 7 was optimized to run on everything. I got an old laptop from 2005. No problem. Got a shiny new PC, even better. It just worked. Boot times were fast, multitasking was smooth, and crashes, almost unheard of. You didn't have to cross your fingers every time you clicked on something. And if you were a gamer, Windows 7 was the one. It introduced DirectX 11, and that was huge. Games looked sharper, ran smoother, and the system didn't get in the way. Unlike newer versions of Windows that always seemed to be doing 1,000 things in the background, Windows 7 stayed out of your business. It was like your chill friend who just handed you the controller and said, "Here, have fun." Even today, some gamers swear by Windows 7 for how reliable it was. But what really set Windows 7 apart was compatibility. Back in the late 2000s and early 2010s, people were still rocking older hardware and software. Windows 7 didn't care, it just made it all work. Printers, scanners, weird legacy programs, it handled them all like a pro. Its compatibility mode was a lifesaver, especially for businesses that didn't want to spend a fortune upgrading everything. It was like Windows 7 said, "Don't worry, I got this." Customization was another huge win. This wasn't just an operating system, it was your operating system. You could tweak themes, move the taskbar around, and add those cool desktop gadgets. Remember those? The little clock, the weather widget, or even a CPU monitoring right there on your desktop. It felt personal. It was like you could make Windows 7 truly your own without needing to watch a dozen YouTube tutorials. Security was on point too. Windows 7 learned from Vista's mistakes. It had solid built-in security features like BitLocker and a reliable firewall, but it didn't shove them in your face. User account control, which had been the bane of everyone's existence in Vista, was way less annoying. It was like Windows 7 said, "Hey, I'll protect you, but I'm not going to be clingy about it." Now here's where it gets interesting. Even as Microsoft released newer versions like Windows 8, 10, and 11, a ton of people refused to leave Windows 7. And honestly, who could blame them? Windows 8 was a train wreck. Microsoft ditched the start menu and gave us this weird tile interface that nobody asked for. It was like they were trying to turn every computer into a tablet, and it just didn't work. People looked at Windows 8, then looked back at Windows 7 and said, "Nah, I'm good." Even when Windows 10 came along, people weren't rushing to upgrade. Sure, it was better than Windows 8, but it came with its own set of problems. Forced updates. No thanks. Imagine working on an important project and your computer just decides time to restart. That's a hard no. Windows 7 didn't pull that nonsense. You were in control. You decided when or if you wanted updates. And let's not forget the bloatware. Windows 10 and 11 came with pre-installed apps nobody asked for. Candy Crush in the start menu. Really, Windows 7 didn't do that. It wasn't cluttered with ads or unnecessary features. It respected your space and let you focus on what actually mattered. So why did people hold on to Windows 7 for so long? Because it felt like home. It was reliable, customizable, and didn't overcomplicate things. Businesses kept using it for years because it worked with their old setups. Gamers stuck with it because it didn't get in their way. Regular users loved it because it was fast, clean, and easy to use. Even when Microsoft announced the end of support in 2020, millions of people were like, "Yeah, we're not leaving." Even today, there's a whole community dedicated to keeping Windows 7 alive. Some run it in virtual machines, while others find creative ways to patch it and keep it secure. Why? Because no other version of Windows has captured that same magic. So here's the bottom line: Windows 7 wasn't just an operating system, it was an experience. It hit that perfect balance of performance, simplicity, and reliability. It didn't try to wow you with flashy features or force you into an ecosystem. It just worked. And in a world where software often feels like it's fighting against you, Windows 7 was the rare system that felt like it was truly on your side. And that's why, even years after its official end, people still talk about Windows 7 like it's a legend. Because let's face it, it is. It didn't need updates every week or features nobody wanted. It just did its job. It understood the assignment. And for that, it'd always be remembered as the go-to of Windows versions. For so many of us, Windows 7 was there for the big moments. It was there when we were pulling all-nighters writing essays or auditing videos. It was there when we first discovered the magic of online gaming or streamed our favorite shows for the first time. Windows 7 was dependable, like an old friend who always showed up when you needed them. Even today, if you ask people what they miss most about Windows 7, they'll tell you it's the feeling. That sense of calm when you logged in and everything just worked. The way it let you focus on your task without distractions. The way it respected you as a user. It didn't force you into anything. No surprise updates. No ads. No trying to push you into using services you didn't want. It was simple, effective, and most importantly, it trusted you to know what you wanted. Now, let's compare that to where we are today. Windows 10 and 11 have their moments, sure, but they've got a different vibe. They're all about integration, cloud services, syncing, and ecosystem lock-ins. And while some of that is great for people who want to live entirely in the Microsoft universe, it's not the same. Windows 7 didn't care if you used Chrome or Firefox instead of Internet Explorer. It didn't nudge you to store all your files in OneDrive, it was just there for you. And the nostalgia factor. Oh, it's real. For those of us who grew up with Windows 7, it's like hearing an old song or smelling a familiar scent. It takes you back. Maybe you remember booting up your PC to play your favorite games after school, or staying up late customizing your desktop with those little widgets. Maybe you remember your first job, your first big project, or even just browsing YouTube when it was still full of cat videos. Windows 7 was there through it all. Let's not forget the influence Windows 7 still has on modern design. Microsoft clearly learned a lot from its success. Even today, you can see echoes of Windows 7 in the way operating systems are built. Features like the taskbar, the start menu, and even some of the visual aesthetics still draw inspiration from the groundwork Windows 7 laid. It's like the blueprint for what a great OS should be. But there's also something bittersweet about all of this. As much as we loved Windows 7, technology moves on. And yeah, there's something exciting about progress. Windows 10 and 11 have brought us new features, better security, and modern designs. But sometimes in the rush to innovate, we lose something along the way. That simplicity, that focus on the user, that feeling of using something that was designed for you, not for data collection or pushing subscriptions. And that's why Windows 7 will always have a special place in our hearts. It's not just about what it did, it's about how it made us feel. It respected us as users, it gave us control. It was there for our best moments, and it never let us down. Even now, when we've moved on to newer systems, there's a part of us that looks back and thinks, man, they really nailed it with Windows 7. So here's to Windows 7, the OS that understood the assignment. The one that set the bar so high, every version after it has been playing catch-up. It wasn't just an operating system, it was our operating system. And while the tech world keeps moving forward, some of us will always look back and smile, remembering the golden era of computing that Windows 7 gave us. Long live the legend.